The guillotine is one of the most famous execution devices in history. It is closely linked with the French Revolution, when thousands of people were publicly beheaded in France. Its falling blade became a symbol of revolutionary justice, political terror, and state power. Yet although Britain used many forms of capital punishment for centuries, it never officially adopted the guillotine. This was not because Britain was more humane. Public hangings, burning at the stake, drawing and quartering, and beheading with the axe all existed in British history. Instead, Britain rejected the guillotine for political, legal, and cultural reasons. One reason it refused to use the guillotine was timing. The guillotine was introduced in France in 1792, at a moment when Britain and France were bitter rivals. Britain soon went to war with revolutionary France, and later with Napoleon Bonaparte. Because of this conflict, many British people saw French revolutionary ideas as very dangerous and chaotic. The guillotine was not only viewed simply as a machine, it represented mob rule, anti-monarchy violence, and the execution of kings and queens such as Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. For British ruling classes, adopting the guillotine would have meant copying the enemy. Britain also already had its own execution traditions. Hanging was the normal punishment for most criminals. It was familiar, cheap, and already built into the legal system. Gallows existed across the country, and hangmen were trained in the method. For nobles convicted of treason, beheading with an axe was sometimes used, as seen in the executions of Anne Boleyn and Charles I. Since Britain already had established methods, there was little pressure to import a foreign machine. Another reason was public image. The guillotine was designed to appear efficient and equal. In theory, rich and poor alike would all die the same way, but in Britain many people saw it as cold and mechanical. Hanging, brutal though it was seen as tradition. The guillotine seemed like an industrial killing device, removing the human element entirely. During the 19th century, Britain was already debating whether executions should become less public and more controlled. Bringing in a dramatic French machine would have likely caused outrage rather than reform. There was also no strong political movement demanding it. In France, the guillotine was introduced partly as a reform. It was said to provide a quicker and less painful death than swords or axes, which could fail badly in unskilled hands. In Britain, reformers instead focused on improving hanging rather than replacing it. This led to the development of the long drop method in the 19th century, intended to break the neck more quickly. British officials preferred modifying an existing system, instead of replacing it with something foreign and controversial. National identity also mattered. Britain often defined itself in opposition to France during the 18th and 19th century. British newspapers regularly portrayed French politics as unstable and violent, while Britain presented itself as constitutional and orderly. Even though British punishments could be harsh, politicians liked to claim moral superiority. Using the guillotine would have definitely weakened that image. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the guillotine had become infamous because of its association with mass execution in France. Britain was moving in the opposite direction. Fewer crimes carried the death penalty, executions were moved inside prisons, and public hangings ended in 1868. There was no appetite to introduce a machine already linked with terror and bloodshed. In the end, Britain never used the guillotine because it didn't need to. Hanging was already established. British leaders distrusted anything tied to revolutionary France, and the device carried political baggage that Britain wanted to avoid. The guillotine may have been efficient, but in British eyes it was never respectable. Thanks for watching. If you did find this video interesting, maybe click subscribe. Once again, thank you so much for giving up your time to watch one of these videos.